Now, the International Business Times has reported on an annual survey of Harvard University's incoming freshman class. So, let's take a look at this survey. Now, it revealed that in September, this month, more students identified as atheist or agnostic than as Roman Catholic or Protestant. Now, according to this article, it suggests that millennials are turning away from traditional American faiths in a country that has long had a Christian majority. Now, let's dive into some of the numbers here. Now, Harvard's poll of beliefs and lifestyles of the class of 2019 found that 21% of incoming freshmen said that they identified as agnostic and 16.6% identified as atheist. Meanwhile, only 17.1% identified as Catholic and 17% as Protestant. Now, putting these numbers together, 38%, a full 38% of students of this incoming freshman class said that they were agnostic or atheist, beating out the 34% that said that they were Catholic or Protestant. Now that's really interesting. This is one of the first times where you have a majority of incoming freshman students at Harvard not identifying with any specific religion. That's sort of a monumental shift in the demographics of the class makeup. And of course, this has future implications. Harvard is obviously a very prestigious school, and a lot of politicians and businessmen and stuff like that come from Harvard, get Harvard educated. So as I said, the results of this are significant. Now, some of the other religions, of course, 12% of the class said they identified as other, including 10% Jewish, 3% Hindu, 2.5% Muslim, and 0.4% Mormon. But what's going on, Mormons? You think you're good enough to go to Harvard? Of course you are. Why not? Why aren't you going to Harvard? Mormons. All right. Anyway, now as I said, this was published in the Harvard Crimson, which is a student newspaper. Now these recent findings, according to the International Business Times, mark a shift in the results of the same survey that was actually done 2 years previously, in which only 22% of the incoming freshman class said that they were Catholic and only 20% identified as Protestant, while 18% said that they are agnostic and 14% atheist. Very, very interesting. Now, this also echoes another recent survey that the number of religiously unaffiliated is on the rise in the United States. Now, this goes back to that Pew Research study that happened in May that indicated that fewer Americans have described themselves as Christians over the years. Christian affiliation in the United States declined by 7.8% between 2007 and 2014, while people identifying as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, the nuns, surged from 16.1% to 22.8% during the same time period. That is a monumental shift. A monumental shift. Now, who is causing that shift? Well, it's millennials. Breakdown in the numbers shows that young adults are driving the change. Pew found that far more millennials, Americans born between 1981 and 1996, are religiously unaffiliated compared to those who identify as evangelical Protestants, Catholics, or mainline Protestants. That's really interesting. Now, a couple of questions come to mind. One being, why are younger people leaving religion? Well, you have to look at it. Maybe it's because of the access of information. The ease of access of information now because of the internet. You've got a lot of people online who can look up different religions, who can look up the texts, who can look up we have all the information in front of us at our fingertips that we can go and find out things. And I think that has really sort of driven this shift in religious affiliation. Because when you have knowledge around you that you can look up any time and find out answers to questions that you might have about your religion, you start to realize that some of the stuff doesn't make sense in these religious texts. For example, you can look at the history and tenets of the actual religion. You can look at it and say, oh boy, this end time stuff doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Seven-headed dragons, that doesn't make sense. Where was that? Nobody told me about that. Well, it's in the Bible. But a lot of pastors and stuff don't talk about that stuff. They don't talk about all the crazy stuff, all the inconsistencies, all the contradictions in these holy books. They don't do it. They don't talk about it. And when you actually look it up, you realize, boy, this stuff sounds kind of crazy. And especially when you compare it to other religions. You had the Jesus myth, for example, right? I know, heads just exploded everywhere as soon as I said the words Jesus and myth in the same sentence, right? Well, there's a lot of great memes, right, that show that the, virgin birth, the flood, even the flood, right? All of that, well, they're all based on similar stories, just for different, prophets or deities. I believe you had Horus, who had the same thing. There's many different religions have a lot of similar stories in them. And of course, when people look at that, I don't know, they get more skeptical and they start to ask more questions. And that's a good thing. Now, another reason I think that younger people are driving the change is because they're more accepting of same-sex couples, right? Now, you might think, wait a minute, what does that have to do with anything, right? Well, a lot of virulent right-wingers and the, people who are fundamentalist Christians, as well as fundamentalists of other religions, aren't exactly fond of gay people. Now, gay people have been out for a while, right? And chances are you know somebody that's gay. They're pretty much, they're everywhere. So you grow up accepting that that's more normal, and then you see these crazy religious people, and you're like, well, I don't want to be associated with that asshole. I know Bob down the street. He's gay. He's got, he adopted some kids. He's living with Gary. Bob and Gary are great. They're really nice people. And then you got this pastor saying horrible, horrible things about them based on this religious text. Well, that makes me not want to believe in that religion. That makes me not want to associate with that religion. And look, let's be honest. You can believe in a creator. You can believe in a God. You can be spiritual. And you don't have to believe in a specific text or doctrine. And maybe that's what some people are, the unaffiliated. You don't necessarily have to be a staunch atheist and believe in nothing to be part of this unaffiliated group. You can be spiritual and not religious. It strictly has to do with mainline religion, as an organized religion, like Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, and Islam. And a lot of millennials, as I said, are turning away from that. Now, another thing, this is kind of the final point that I want to make, is that with more knowledge around, tying back to my first point, and the ability to look up that knowledge, you realize just how many religions there are in the world. And when you look at the number of religions and how similar their stories are, you can ask yourself, well, since there are so many religions in the world, how do you know which one is right? It makes you more skeptical, especially when it comes to young people. Young people are more skeptical. We're asking more questions. We're not satisfied with some of the answers that we've received to a lot of these questions. And as such, we're turning away from religion. Now, for my personal feelings, I think that's a good thing. And it's a good thing we're turning away from organized religion. You do not have to be a religious person to be a moral person, to be a good person. And numerous studies have proven that, have shown that. You don't have to have a religion to be a moral person. In fact, sometimes, in some cases, being a religious person makes you less moral. In some instances. And that's when we're talking about, as I said, same-sex rights. And the rights of other people. In the Bible, slavery was fine. Slavery was okay in the Bible. God said that you could have concubines, that you could go in, kill all the men, and take the women for yourself. That does not sound moral. And in Islam, there are similar things and justifications for killing gay people. So no, having a religion doesn't necessarily make you more of a moral person. It just doesn't. And I think we can all agree on what we call the golden rule. Do unto others as you would wish others to do unto you.